time it is. Marvin Devine, Huber, Axel, and you know how we do. Yeah, I got the juice. Whip game cool, make them look like cool. Always play it cool, that's the biggest rule. Forget what they doing, keep on doing. I've been making loot since like 22. Ask me how I made it right here in the booth. I'm always pursued cause of what I pursue. That's greatness, yeah, I gotta make it, I got things to lose. Boy, wanna get in my crew, but you can't get in my crew. Me, Axel, and Huber way too fireable. When this joint drop, better call the troops. And when you hear the drop, better raise the roof. Better raise the roof. You already know what happens when we link up. Let's go. Yeah.
What's going on? Welcome to World Kidney News International. I'm your host, Steve Belcher. Welcome. Again, welcome. Happy Valentine's Day. That's what I was going to say. Happy Valentine's Day. Share this broadcast because tonight, this is going to be a show like no other. We have live all the way from Westport Island, Darren Carley, kidney warrior and motivational speaker. You may have seen him on Facebook. How many of you, if you got your transplant, you'll go home and maybe, chill and maybe start something, organization. But how many of you would actually dive in the sub-below freezing weather, the Atlantic Ocean or the Mediterranean? Check this out.
Cold water plunges to do it in the snow. Today it's snowing. I'm going to get in, not for long, to do it. And as I said, 10 years transplanted yesterday. The only reason I can do stuff like this is because of the gift of life.
Whoa! It's class.
Water's fine. I think that's enough for today, though. Did you turn it, Grace?
How many of you would do that every year? Every year. So let's talk to the man who's in the video. I'm happy to have him here tonight, live from Westport, Ireland. Kidney warrior, motivational speaker, Darren Carley. Let's give him the VIP intro. Hey, Darren, how you doing?
Hey, how are you, Steve? Great to be here.
Pretty good, man. Thank you so much for staying up late to join this broadcast. I know it's about 12:11 a.m. in Westport, Ireland. So thank you so much, man, for doing this.
Delighted, yeah.
And so Darren, I mean, what
big dreams from the open water,
like
the cold water plunges.
I mean, before having the transplant, did you do anything such as this in your life?
Well, no, I never done cold water sports or cold water plunges like this. I was huge into sport. I'm very big into sport. I always was. Boxing and Gaelic football, Irish football, some soccer, any sport. I just loved sport. So getting kidney failure, I was 20 years old when I got kidney failure. I was actually doing a degree in sports in a university in England. So it was a huge life-changing shock. And I thought I would never get to participate in sport ever again. You know, in the space of 10 days, I went from a healthy sports and fitness studies student to someone with a chronic long-term illness, kidney disease.
Now, before we talk about what caused your kidney disease, you mentioned sports. Now, man, you're a tough guy. Let me tell you. Tell us about this, man.
You just got some good pictures there, yeah. Well, again, to promote donor awareness, I will probably do anything just to highlight the fact that with a kidney, I can live a certain type of life unimagined while on dialysis. And in Ireland, we're a very old and ancient race. And thousands of years ago, there was the High Kings of Ireland. They ran the country. And the High King of Ireland, there's a lot of traditions about it. They had a warrior class called Na Fianna. And to be a part of Na Fianna, you had to train and do certain exercises. So this event was called the High King of Tara Festival. And it was put on essentially to kind of, you go through the trials of these ancient warriors of Ireland, like pulling stones. There was a lot of throwing darts, there was climbing, there was jumping. So a lot of activities. And I got involved purely because of the Irish Kidney Association, which I'm involved in. And just to go for the fun.
There we go.
That's with the kind of Taoiseach, the Premier of Ireland, they're holding a donor card. Yeah, so I every chance I get, I try and promote donor awareness where I can.
Wow. So tell us your story, Darren. How did you get here to where you're at today talking to me? How does your story begin at 20 years old, at the prime of your life, at almost the pinnacle of college? Yeah. What happened?
Well, I don't know. Unfortunately, that's one of the things about kidney disease. Sometimes you know what you have, but you don't know how you got it. I was in my second year in college. Life was great. I was really enjoying myself. And I started to get really bad headaches. My head was pounding all the time. And as a shy enough kind of fella at the time, I was, I didn't want to go and see a doctor. I didn't want to tell anybody. But it got to the stage where my eyesight started to go very bad and I couldn't really read my school books. I couldn't participate in sport as much. So eventually I went to a doctor. The college doctor asked me what was wrong. And I said, I'm getting headaches and blurred vision. And she just put me aside, said, "Go and see an optician if you want." She assumed I was trying to get out of my exams, which of course I was trying to get out of my exams, but for different reasons. Luckily, the optician spent 2 minutes looking at my eyes and sent me to the hospital A&E department, emergency department, immediately. He knew there was something very wrong. So went to the ER, handed in a letter from the optician, and within 2 minutes I was being seen. And after they did a few tests and that, someone took my blood pressure, and it was incredibly high. My blood pressure was, I think it was 190 over 122. I think that's what it was. So it was very high. I straight away put lying down. My parents, who were in a different country in Ireland, I was studying in the UK, in England. They were told to get to England immediately. Your son could have a stroke at any minute. He's in a very bad condition.
Wow.
And after biopsies and tests and blood results, they came back a few days later and said, "We're very sorry, you have chronic end-stage renal failure." And at the time, that didn't bother me because I'd never heard any of them words before. I didn't know what renal meant. I didn't know what chronic illness. I didn't know any of that because I'd been a very healthy person. And they said, "Your kidneys have failed." And I asked, "Am I going to die?" Wasn't my kind of question. I said, no, you'll end up on dialysis. And again, I'd never heard of dialysis before. And within 2 or 3 days, I had a line in my neck and dialysis started almost immediately. So that was my introduction to
something like this.
Just like that. Yeah. Not a nice thing. But yeah, my life changed overnight. Gone. My whole career, my future, my plans, everything gone.
So Darren, they didn't tell you what was the diagnosis is kidney failure, but they didn't tell you the cause, or as they say, the etiology of the cause of the kidney disease?
There was a thought, glomerular nephritis, probably due to a strep throat, maybe. But it could have been going on for a year, 2 years, 3 years. We don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, but I ignored it. I was I was a sports student. I couldn't be sick. It's not possible, so I ignored the signs and just kept going, kept motoring on.
Sure. Now, did you spend time on dialysis?
Oh, yeah. I spent time on dialysis. I finished my final year in college on dialysis, and then I moved back to Ireland. I went on the transplant waiting list, and fantastically, within 9 months, I got the call for a transplant.
9 months?
9 months, I got the gift of life, yeah.
Wow. Now, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but is the donor pool over there, like, is it short or is it large? Like when somebody needs a transplant, is the wait list large like it is in the United States?
It's probably much smaller than the wait list in the United States, but at the time there wasn't as many people on dialysis. And just to go on, I guess, like I got the transplant. It was success. Life was brilliant. I went to all these transplant games. I went on with my life again. I kind of put all that kidney stuff behind me and thought I can forget all about that. That was just a freak and I'll just get on with it. Unfortunately, after a year and a half, blood tests showed my creatinine levels were gone way high. They did a biopsy. I had a viral infection, the BK virus. Is it the BK virus?
Yeah, that's prevalent over here. Absolutely.
Yeah, BK virus. We're very sorry. We're going to have to remove the kidney. So that was less than 2 years. So that was again.
So they removed the kidney.
They removed the kidney, a transplant nephrectomy. As I say, all the pain and suffering of a transplant without the happy ending. So it was not a nice time.
Well, that's very very interesting that you said that, because here people get the BK virus and sometimes it causes them to reject, but they don't mention that they got their kidney taken out. So is it a possibility if someone has the BK virus and their organ rejects after, say, a year and a half because they couldn't get rid of the virus, if they leave their kidney in, is there a possibility that that BK virus could return when they put if they get a new transplant, even though they went through antiviral therapy?
I guess it is. I never went through antiviral therapy, but my transplant was removed. There was no reason that I knew of. Even up to the day I had the transplant removed, I felt pretty good. I felt fine. But the reality was I think it was to remove as much of the BK virus as possible, because I didn't go on the transplant waiting list for about 5 years, waiting for it to go totally out of my blood and to remove it before I went back on the waiting list. So I went back on dialysis at 22 years old, 23 maybe, and it wasn't a pleasant experience because I knew what was ahead of me. And I spent the next 9 years in hospital dialysis, every 2 days on dialysis for the next 9 years.
Wow.
So that was, again, a challenge. That was difficult. Very difficult initially because, there was no going on great holidays. There was no going away for weekends, the drinking, partying. A young guy in my early 20s. I was an outgoing person then, and that all just really dried up.
Well, let me ask you, Dan, is it true that over in like UK and Ireland that most of those hospital dialysis units have a psychologist or a psychiatrist on staff to help renal patients deal with this?
In my experience, no, not at all. It's something that's coming in more and more. I think it's a huge area which needs to be looked at. It's something I'm looking at myself. I'm developing an online course looking at the mental and emotional aspects of living with kidney disease, because your healthcare team, obviously, they look after the physical aspects of your body. Like when I was told I had kidney failure, we're going to go dialysis, you're going to get this diet, you're going to start taking these tablets, and then you go out the door, and my life was ruined. My life was upside down, and I had no help at the time. So it's more of for me, the patient organization, the Irish Kidney Association, they have a social worker, psychologist on staff where you can go and talk to them now. But when I started on dialysis, no, that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah, I know in UK, the NHS, they do have that at their hospital-based units. So tell us about your second transplant. How did that come about?
That came about at an interesting time in my life, I guess, because over the years on dialysis, I changed my mindset. I started reading more positive books. I got back really big into exercise, sport, and fitness. I went to the European Transplant and Dialysis Games. So over a process of time, I did a lot of things to change the mentality, the person who I was. I became a very positive, outgoing person, and I lived a good life on dialysis. I believe it's possible to live a very good life on dialysis when you get certain things in place. So I was going out with a girl for quite a while, and she was keen to get married, and I wasn't, because where do you go the day after your wedding? Back into dialysis again. So that's not the dream. So on the 10th of January, I bit the bullet, as I say, and I proposed to my wife, actually at a speech in the Czech Republic in Prague. And she said yes. That was the 10th of January. And then 1 month later, to the day, on the 10th of February, I was on my way to meet her in Dublin City, the capital of Ireland. We were going shopping for engagement rings, and my phone rang, and they told me, get to the hospital as quick as you can. We think we have a kidney for you, which was remarkable. Of course, my wife, my now wife, I rang her to say we couldn't go looking for engagement rings, and she was not happy at all until she realized what was actually about to happen. I told her I was going on holidays for 2 weeks, and she said, oh, good for you. Where are you going? I said, to Beaumont Hospital, which is the hospital that did the transplant. So that happened the 10th of February, 10 years ago. So just a few days.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was a real joyous occasion then, because now I was going to get married. I was, a new life path ahead of me. Everything was going to plan. I had my head in a good place, and I was looking forward to taking on life.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you a quick question about Prague. Is that a very beautiful place?
Prague is a spectacular place. Spectacular place, yeah. Castle, palace, opera houses, 2 or 3 opera houses. And we had a fantastic time there. Luckily, I get asked to speak in different places in Europe, and there was a conference on there at the time. And the organizer, Jitka, who's a great friend of mine now, I said to her that I was thinking about, proposing to Aoife, is my wife's name. And she said, oh, you have the opera house and you have Charles's Bridge. But she said, why not do it up on stage in front of everybody? It would be amazing. And I said, no, of course not. But she persuaded me. So and she had a photographer, she had a videographer, she had champagne for the 100 people that were there, all the nurses, doctors, journalists, and it was memorable, to say the least. It was memorable. My wife nearly died. She was just shocked. She couldn't know what was going on, and we ended up having a fantastic holiday and going back there again since, just to relive it.
Oh man, that's awesome. That is so awesome. So tell us, Darren, you talked about changing your mindset during during your dialysis time. What was the most challenging circumstances you encountered undertaking dialysis?
In physically, is it in terms of being in the hospital?
Yes.
Well, just dialysis, the needling. I don't think you can ever get used to it. And I didn't needle myself. It was a hospital dialysis. They did that. But, sometimes things go wrong. And I found that challenging, getting the needles done every day. The other thing was, I was a 20-something-year-old person going into a hospital environment every 2 days, surrounded by people who are 60, 70, 80 years old. So mentally, they were my peers. They were normal. So it took a bit of getting used to break away my mindset. Like, I couldn't socialize with my friends like I'd like. I couldn't travel. I couldn't go away on holidays you could, but it was very challenging, very difficult. So most of the difficulties were really the mental aspects of dialysis, of having really an old person's disease in a young person's body. So I found that difficult, and I didn't have really any help. I had no role models. I think that's a good way of looking at it, that everybody, they'd look at me and you could see them, they were sad because they had lived their lives, they had kids, they had families, they traveled, they worked, and I was just starting off on these roads, and I felt really stifled that I couldn't do them. So it took time. Like, reading for me was spectacular. Dialysis, I tried to turn it into a positive experience. So I'd read, first thing I'd go in, I'd never read nonfiction, always biographies, business, psychology, something that will make me a better person or to help me to create a better version of myself. That was my big goal. And eventually the European Transplant and Dialysis Games came along, and, oh my God, I could participate in sports again. It was such a huge thing because it was my life up until the age of 20. And I got to go to these transplant games, and they were a revelation, really, because I met young people. I met other people for the first time, and they became my role models. I could see other people competing and running and racing, and I had this sick mentality up to that point. I'm Darren, I have kidney disease, I'm sick. I suffer with kidney disease. Whereas today, I live with kidney disease. I thrive with kidney disease. I don't suffer with it anymore. So to try and change that kind of, as I said, the mental tram lines in your head to a different track, So it was a dialysis for me. That was the biggest thing, moving mentally away from the hospital environment, separating life and dialysis to two different sections. That's a long answer to a short question.
No, but it makes sense. Now, let me ask you, were there ever a time when you were going through the dialysis phase that any doubt that you wouldn't get a transplant, a second one after the first one failed? Did that first transplant, when it failed, did that put a punch in you to discourage you from getting back on the list?
Enormously. Absolutely. That was the lowest time, because when I got kidney failure initially, I just assumed they made a mistake. I couldn't be sick. It must be a problem. I actually thought I needed glasses. That's why I had headaches. And I went through the dialysis in a blur. I came back to Ireland. I got the transplant, and life was back to normal. And then to be told, your kidney has failed. I knew what the future was then. I knew I would spend the next 5 years at least on dialysis every 2 days. And mentally, that was just a terrible time, Steve. That wasn't enjoyable at all, because you're going in the first day back to dialysis. I was wheeled into the dialysis unit, and you hear all the beeps, the blood pressure monitors, the blood readings, the machines themselves beeping up and down. Just them noises come back, and they just hit you all of a sudden, and this is my future for the next long, long time. So it really was a difficult time that, it took a long time for me to get over that. I think my parents were worried about me as a young 20-year-old having this life ahead of me. And I was just, it was apathy, really. I had no care,
Sure.
didn't care. So it was that I have never had a time, and I won't ever have a time like that again. But I think it was important I went through it and eventually accepted my situation and then moved on to improving that situation.
Now let me ask you. So during that time, you had to wait at least 5 years before you get on the list. That was the minimum.
Yeah.
So during that time, did any doubts or any thoughts come into your mind that said I may not make it that 5 years, or something may happen to me, or that time may not come to pass? Did any of that seep into your thoughts?
Occasionally, not very often, because I became positive. I lived in the present moment. I never had a bag packed in the corner thinking about the transplant, having to look at that every day. I didn't do things like that. But sometimes on dialysis, there's a person in the bed right beside you, and maybe their needle falls out and you see blood spray, and they pull over the curtain and they're trying to keep someone alive, and you're in the bed beside them. And that's just, again, mentally challenging to a really, really massive degree. And people died on dialysis. You see it happen. You see the blood on the wall sometimes. And again, you're trying to ignore, stay in your bubble, stay positive, stay focused. And yeah, they were the difficult things, to see other people going through, other people suffering. I, being younger, maybe I was quite healthy. I began to see myself as the healthiest patient in the hospital. I used to monitor my bloods every month, really keep an eye on them, and they kept coming back very good. I kept pushing the boundaries of what I could eat, what I could drink. I did a lot of different things. I went for a sauna every day. Now, that's not obviously recommended for everybody, but it worked spectacularly well for me. It just, again, mentally, it helped me feel more normal. I could go into a social environment, health beneficial, spend time with other people, conversations, talking, maybe unburdening some of the issues I was going through with friends. So that was very positive. And you could sit and have a cup of tea or a glass of orange juice in different places then, because your fluid restriction was a bit better. So I used to try out different things over the years, and it's very easy. The feedback is very quickly coming. Every month, blood test. How is your bloods? If they're good, okay, that worked. I'll keep trying that. And that's how I got through things like that, trying to self-experimental, self-care.
So you got involved in your own care?
I think it's vital to get involved in your own care. Vital. You have to be an active partner in your own health. It's you. If you're not involved, if you're just a thing being acted upon, well, you're not going to grow. You're not going to develop. You're not going to take an interest. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that happens a lot in hospitals, where the patient lies in the bed, they're told what to do, and you do it, and there's no communication really with the doctor. Again, Steve, you're a nurse. Nurses were my best. Right. Nurses were my best friends, because they had to translate what the doctor said into a language that I could understand and use. Doctors sometimes don't get that. They kind of treat you from the neck down, which is sad to say. Not all doctors, but some people do. They tend to treat you from the neck down. Physically, what can we do to keep this person in good health? Mm-hmm. Whereas for me, the mental and emotional aspects of the disease are crippling, especially at the beginning. And we need help in that area. Right. Doctors don't give it. It was the nurses that really, really gave it to me. I couldn't be more grateful to the nurses. When I got married, obviously, a load of the nurses were at my wedding. They were the important people.
Wow. Now, Dan, you said something that I want to go back on, and explain why you didn't pack a bag for a transplant. What was your reasoning for not having the bag packed for when you got that call?
Well, I guess you can't live in the present moment if you're constantly thinking about some future event which may or may not happen. That was the way I looked at it. I was very much positive. I'm Darren Cawley. I'm a healthy person who happens to have a health issue called kidney disease. But if I thought about that a lot. I had a bag originally, And if you are going home and every day in your room you see a bag and you go, oh God, when is it going to happen? You start getting you down. I'm on dialysis 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. It kept going. I couldn't live like that. I couldn't think about it. And so when I got called for the transplant, all I had was an overnight bag where I was going up to visit my fiance. What do you need in your bag? That was my thinking. You need clothes, you need toothbrush. There's nothing too important I felt I needed that I couldn't get very quickly. Anyway.
Right. Now, Darren, how many hours? You said you went to treatment twice a week. For how many hours each time?
Usually 3.5 hours.
Whoa. 3.5 hours twice a week?
3 times a week. Sorry, every 2 days. 3 times a week, really, yeah.
Oh, okay. You had said twice, so it's 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the reason why I asked that, because you had said twice a week, and I was thinking maybe what is said over in the United States that in Europe, treatment time is about 5 hours.
Oh, right. Well, initially my treatment time was 4 to 4.5 hours, and we had a lot of arguments in a nice way in the hospital because it didn't make any sense to me, right? I was very thin. I was like 9-10 stone, maybe. I was 66 kilos, and I was doing 4.5 hours. The guy in the bed next to me was 22 stone, and he was doing 4.5 hours. And why were we both doing the same time when obviously he had twice the blood probably and twice the issues and twice the waste products that I have? So we debated and we tried out, and eventually I got to 3.5 hours, which was as low as I was allowed to go. And I just thought, and I felt great on it. So that's what worked for me.
Okay. We had a question right quick from Jen Benson. She's a founder of transplantjourney.org here in the United States, up in Connecticut. And she said, interesting perspective with packed bags. She said, did you feel it was a scramble at the last minute?
No, in my case, I was 2 hours into a 4-hour journey on my way to near the area where the hospital was. Because Ireland is a small enough, like a teddy bear shaped, and I was going from one coast to the other coast. And I got called halfway. So I wasn't going to go back. Anyway, so I had no bag packed and I had no bag for the transplant. I just got to the hospital as soon as possible, and my fiance Aoife, she brought what I needed, and the next day my mother, my family, they brought anything else I needed. But again, I don't know, I didn't need anything really. Just What do people normally bring in these bags?
Just like you said, pajamas, maybe some slippers, shaving kit, feminine products, maybe a robe. What I wanted to ask you. So let's talk about your transition from getting a second transplant to where you're at now, and like we see in this picture, and your work with the pharmacy and motivation. How did that come about after 2 transplants? The first one failed, 9 years on dialysis, second transplant. Now all of a sudden you're going around Europe, you're speaking at pharmaceutical events, giving lectures, speeches. How did that come about? I mean, I know that just didn't happen overnight. Is that something that came out of nowhere, or you saw that path?
No, everything happened very slowly, incrementally. And it happened while on dialysis. I was asked to join what's called the Lions Club. I know it's very big in America, the Lions Club. Well, we have a Lions Club here in my own little town of Westport, and they do terrific work. And when I got sick, someone approached me and said, is there anything I need? Is there anything I want? And luckily, I had a good family, I had good friends. I didn't need anything. But when I turned 30, I was asked to join the Lions Club. And when I joined, I started a project with the club, going into schools, speaking for donor awareness. And just telling my story and saying why donor cards are important. In Ireland, we have this here, they're called the Gift of Life. And the Irish Kidney and the Irish Donor Network, they produce these cards that people carry. And from there, going into schools, speaking, that turned into a kind of overcoming adversity talk. And people heard about it and it was going well in different schools with a free talk I gave. I was asked to go to the European Parliament, which was in Strasbourg. And that was an enormous thing for me to go and speak at the European Parliament. It's one of the most important places in Europe. And I spoke at a small enough group of pharmaceutical heads and journalists and patient organizations. And my talk went well. I gave a good representation of life as a kidney disease patient. I believe it was impactful and influential. And from there, different people asked me to go to different countries. I went to France, to Sweden, to Germany, to Prague, which was most notable. And from there, different companies asked me to speak, and I continued going into school. So it was by giving a free talk in a school, it just kept building momentum gradually. And now I have a website, and now I have ebooks and stuff, to try and do what I can. Now, when I got the transplant, another gentleman got a transplant at a similar time. And he said we should do something after the first year to highlight donor awareness, because we're in good shape, we're happy, we're healthy. And we decided to swim across a fjord in Ireland. And so that's 9 years ago. And if you look at that picture, in the background, there's a mountain. And that mountain is called Croagh Patrick. It's like a pyramid at the top. And it's Ireland's holy mountain. That's where St. Patrick, you hear of St. Patrick's Day. That's where St. Patrick Day climbed up and spent 40 days and 40 nights in prayer and fasting and pilgrimage. That's what he did. So on the fifth year,
that's awesome.
Oh, there's a path up and a little church on top, and it's steeped in history long before Christianity. So it's a fascinating place. So for my donor, I guess, for my donor family, every year on Christmas Day for the last 10 years, I've climbed that mountain. And when it was my fifth kind of anniversary of my kidney transplant, I climbed it 10 times in a month, just as a physical challenge. Now it's only 3,000 or 4,000 feet. It's doable. It takes 2 or 3, 4 hours depending on your fitness level. But that was my challenge for that February. And then this year,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. You make it sound like, it's a walk in the park, 3,000 or 4,000 feet. Like, people do that, every day. Especially being a transplant recipient. And you saying you did it 10 times in 1 month?
Yes, yeah. It was a bit of a challenge, yeah.
Wow.
And again, from that, I love doing that. I read a book recently for Christmas. My wife got me a book called Wim Hof. And I don't know, some people have heard of Wim Hof. He's this kind of crazy Dutch guy who gets into ice cold water and he focuses his mind. He does breathing techniques. And I found it fascinating. And the day of my birthday, which is the 1st of February, a friend called out of the blue and said, I'm thinking of getting into the water because, and I stopped him. I said, I'll do it. No, I didn't tell you what it is yet. He said, no. I said, I'll do it. So he was doing a freeze-bury challenge, which is something people do in Ireland and maybe in other places. Every day you get into the cold water for a minute, and then day 2 for 2 minutes, day 3, 3 minutes, and you build up that way. So I decided to honor the 10 years of my transplant to get into water every day for them 10 days. And it came to me after the first day of doing it, like, it's painful. The water is 3 degrees Fahrenheit. I know what that is it's about 3 degrees. So it's very cold. And outside some days it's snowing, it's freezing cold, so it's painful. It was very painful. But when you get out, you feel exhilarated, you feel alive, you feel full of energy. And I just thought straight away, that is the transplant experience, because not for me, not the pain I went through getting a transplant, but somebody, if it's someone that passed away, has just lost the most important person in their world. They're going through such enormous pain and suffering because their loved one has died. And I'm receiving their transplant. I'm receiving their body part, really, their kidney, which is going to give me a different kind of aspect of life. It's going to just change my life enormously. And I felt exhilarated. And it just seemed to be perfect. The pain of getting into that cold water is shocking. But the exhilaration afterwards is, it's spectacular. It's fantastic. And even we're on day 15 now, and I'm loving it. I'm going to keep doing it because it's very health enhancing. I feel great doing it. It's still a challenge, but I just thought the symbolism of pain and exhilaration tied in very well with my 10 years of a transplant.
How far do you live from the water?
About 500 or 600 meters, thankfully. Because Ireland, we're in lockdown at the moment. You're not allowed to travel more than 5K. You're not allowed mixing groups of people. So it's great. My friend and another guy, we go usually in separate cars. We meet there. We get in the water. We get out, and we go our separate ways again.
Wow. Amazing. So, Dan, tell us about your organization or your website.
Well, I guess because of the public speaking, it's now something that I love doing. It's a passion. I enjoy nothing more than speaking. I'm here drinking a lot of water because my voice is out of practice because I haven't been doing much due to lockdown. I haven't done any speaking or any work since last March. So it's been a dry year and a half. But because of the public speaking, going into schools, going into companies, going into organizations, I felt that pharmaceutical companies, especially, now not the big corporate, I don't mean the top table people, the shareholders and all this. I go in and I like to talk to the staff that work in pharma companies and try and inspire them in the job that they do, because essentially they produce products that keep us alive, especially those of us on dialysis. And they don't know that. They don't realize they see the same job every day. They do the same thing again and again and again. And I've kind of framed that in a different way, showing that every product is a patient. Every product is a person. So that everything they touch, everything they handle, everything they use ends up either connected to or inside a person. So I try and humanize the products within the pharmaceutical industry to a degree that people working there, they go the extra mile, they try harder, they're intrinsically motivated to do the best job possible, not for the money and not for their boss looking over their shoulder, but for patients like me who live, who survive. We're alive only because of that kind of legacy of carefulness and legacy of creativity within the pharmaceutical industry. Because essentially, I got kidney failure at 20. If my grandfather had kidney failure at 20, he would be dead at 21. And now look at my life, 23 years after getting kidney disease. I've never been happier or healthier. I'm married. I've got two troublesome but fantastic little boys. They're 2 and a 4-year-old. But like, life is great. And that's all because of the kind of the research, the medical teams, the healthcare teams, the pharmaceutical companies, all working together with the patient to give life, to give health.
Now, Dan, let me ask you, from a motivational perspective, how would you address Mrs. French? This is her comment. Arthur French. She said, "My son been in kidney dialysis since 12/5/05. Due to other issues, they say he's not eligible for a transplant. He's 53. I'm 81. God left me here to take care of him till God takes him home." Now, how would, if you got an email or a letter like that, how would you return that that letter if they was looking for some type of hope or something?
Well, I'd say in that case, there isn't a lot of hope. That would be the first thing. You have to try and inspire hope that you can live a good life on dialysis. Obviously, I don't know, he may have other health issues that are debilitating him in some way. But for me, it's to try and get people thinking, trying to get them to think differently. A lot of people, when they get kidney failure, are defined by kidney failure. Because that's the way I was. Hi, I'm Darren. I have kidney failure. I'm sick. I have that mentality. And it took a lot to change that. And it took, well, I can only talk about some of the things I've tried. Exercise for me has been huge. And I don't mean sports and physical exercise. Sometimes walking up and down the stairs is spectacular. Walking to the front room, a can of beans in your hand, just doing some exercises. Every little thing like this is exercise, and our bodies are designed to move. Now, sometimes when you're told you have a serious illness, you're told to sit down, relax, don't move. We'll do everything for you. And that's not how our bodies are designed. So we have to kind of take an active role in our own treatment by exercise. That's one thing I love.
Mm-hmm.
Role models were something that I found, which I talked about already there, going to the transplant games, seeing other people. When you've told you have kidney disease, you often believe you're sick, so that you don't see anyone else doing anything different. Anybody, you've no one to show you what's possible. So again, that's something I try and do because other people did it for me. It was only through seeing other people living a very positive life that I thought, oh, right, that's possible on dialysis. So therefore, I started doing that. Other things like, I don't know how people feel about them, but affirmations, kind of rewiring the brain to a more positive place. They may be mumbo jumbo, but yet I've tried this. I do it all the time, and I'm very positive, and I really credit things like that for it. I say things like, I am happy and healthy. I am honest and loving. I am confident and courageous. I am decisive and enthusiastic. I have a whole list of things I say. Even mantras like, every molecule, every cell, every tissue of my beautiful body constantly renews itself in perfect health. So I say that a great deal. So I have all these things. Gratitude, I say, thank you, God, for bringing motivation and success to my life. Thank you, God, for bringing wisdom, knowledge, and learning. Thank you, God, for bringing a healthy transplant to my life. So by saying these things repeatedly and meaning them, even when I was on dialysis and I had no transplant, I had no job, I had, no ambition really, all these things came into being. And I can't explain that, but that helped me develop a positive attitude. And that is a huge part. For me also, we kind of talked about it, but acceptance. If you don't accept that you have a serious long-term illness, if you don't accept that, you have to develop into a different person. You can't go on being the same person you are before you got kidney disease, because now you have limitations, right? And if you see that, like, limitations in that, they can be, you can live a very good life within the confines of kidney disease. You have a strict diet. It can still be an enjoyable diet. There's no end to cookbooks and dietitians that will show you how to prepare and give you opportunities to eat better food, more tasty food. So I think acceptance is huge, attitude is huge, and then action. So if you can work on them three things, that's what I'm focusing on. That's what really helped me. As I said, I have an online course, and it's accept where you are and then move forward with a positive attitude. And these two things together are not enough. You have to take action. And that could be in reading positive books. Stop reading trashy novels all the time. Certainly they're brilliant to relax at the end of the day, but try and put some more reading material which will be useful to you. Because if you're in a bad place, you constantly have to strive to create a better version of yourself. Obviously not competing against me or you, Steve, or anybody else. You're just trying to create a better version of yourself every single day. And that's some of the things now, briefly going through them, but like, action is the main thing. You have to take action. You have to get up off the couch. You have to turn off the TV. You have to go for a walk. You have to read. You have to do affirmations. You have to look to role models. And now with the internet, you're a role model, Steve. I hope I am. There's so many people out there doing positive things with kidney disease, which at the time I didn't think was possible. And because I know they are possible, I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're on Facebook and Instagram. Are you on Twitter as well?
Not really. I enjoy Twitter. I enjoy listening into the debates of the day, but not as actively on Twitter as I am on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you mentor? We had a young lady in our comments named Angela. She said, I want to do that. I need a mentor, Mr. Cowley, but she called you Crawley. But
it's okay.
Do you mentor?
Not in a professional capacity, but I would be delighted if Angela wants to give me an email or ask me a few questions. I'll certainly get back to her.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Like, I'm very lucky. After I got the transplant, I went back to college and I did a master's. I already have a degree in sports and fitness, but I went back and did a master's in health promotion. So again, that helped me learn the language of kind of academia. It was fantastic for that. But it's personal experience which was the winner every time. People like to hear that you have a good education, you have a degree and a master's and all these things, but it's our own stories which really create change in other people. So I focus on helping as much as I can from my own experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have something in common because I too have a master's in health education and promotion.
Okay. It's fantastic. Like the Ottawa Charter and all these places, the promoting health is essential because unfortunately our healthcare system usually is 90% of the money goes towards waiting for someone to get sick and then treating them. And only 10% goes into preventing these illnesses happening in the first place. And so many of them are preventable, but we just we're not listening, or there's not enough education and promotion in areas of health.
Mm-hmm. Now let me ask you, do the Irish Kidney Foundation have a mentoring program?
It's something they're developing at the moment, actually. I was just talking to one of the staff there, Aoife, and they have big plans to really grow that, because I think helping patients is fantastic, especially on the mental and emotional aspects. I think leave the physical aspects to the healthcare team and to the doctors. I don't ever try and guide people in what type of dialysis to do or what diet to take, because we're all individual people. We all have different intricacies, and it's your healthcare team, your doctors, your nurses. They will guide you fantastically well with that. Now, what works for me won't work for Angela maybe and for other people, but we can talk about that. But in terms of kind of the Irish Kidney Association, they're constantly evolving and changing in a positive way. They're listening to the patients, and they're a true patient organization. I'm sure similar organizations in America are doing that.
Yes, somewhat. That's all I can say.
Not easy. It's not easy,
because that's why we do these shows, because we feel like there's not enough being put out there. I mean, you can go to their website and get information, but the majority of people may not know that information exists on the website if they don't know that organization exists at all. So that's why we do shows like World Kidney News and Warriors Quest and other shows on this network to bring more awareness, but also put a more informational spin on it as well.
Yeah.
Now, we're about to come down to about the final minutes of the show. I wanted to ask you, Dan, how can people reach you?
Well, definitely, probably the best way is darrencawley.com. That's it. But I'm enjoying LinkedIn at the moment. As you see, I've loads of the cold water stuff is going up all the time, because it's a real challenge. And that's what, for me, life is about: new experiences, constantly challenging ourselves, seeing what's possible, and maybe laying the groundwork so that other people can follow in a direction like that. Oh, there's the webpage. So I'm loving Instagram. You'll find me there. There's not too many Darren Cawleys out there. There's a few, but there's not too many. So Instagram and LinkedIn, of course, I like LinkedIn, but that's more professional, more business side of things. Mm-hmm. And I love answering questions. I have an ebook on the webpage there, 5 ways that I tackled and thrived with kidney disease, which anyone can have a read of. And if I speak...
Is it 5 ways?
I tackled and thrived with kidney disease. So that's on my webpage there. So
you people might... You tackled and what?
If you go onto my webpage, the 5 ways I tackled and thrived with kidney disease.
Oh, thrive. Okay.
Thrived, with kidney failure.
Okay.
So there's a lot of stuff there. And again, just say hello. Give me a shout.
Let me put that up there. So, Dan, before we go, let me put that up there. 5 ways I tackled and thrived with kidney failure. That's the ebook, correct?
That's an ebook, yeah. Hopefully people will find it useful.
And they can get it at darrencawley.com. So, Darren, what would you tell warriors right now watching you that are waiting for a transplant? They've been on the list for 2, 4, 6, 7 years. Yeah. What could you say to them right now, inspiring?
Well, take control of your mind. Take control of your own healthcare system. Like, I don't mean the physical aspects. Your healthcare team, nurses, doctors, they will do a fantastic job of treating your body, the physical aspects of it. You have to take control of the mental and emotional aspects of the disease. And that's where you have control. Positivity, challenge yourself, try and live as normal a life as possible within the confines that obviously kidney disease and kidney failure brings. So don't give up. constantly learn, constantly challenge yourself. You can get better, I believe. Not a cure for kidney disease, but if you can get better at living with kidney disease, it makes an enormous difference. And I understand it. You know, I'm 23 years now with kidney disease. I've had some horrible, challenging times where I was very low, but slowly, incrementally, positive, kind of soaking up positivity from fellow patients, from the online organizations, from reading. You know, there's so much out there to help you. Go out there, look for it, get it, or else give me a call and I'll do whatever I can to try and move you, to try and transform that thinking from negativity into positivity and resilience, because we have an opportunity to develop great resilience because we go through so much. So become resilient, become positive, take control of your mind.
Wow, that's awesome. Darren, man, you need to definitely come back, maybe be a contributing visitor bi-monthly just to share these tips, because we just feel like and believe that information like this needs to get out there to more and more people that deal with this disease, and they don't think that they have a voice.
Yeah, I agree. I'm working on that at the moment in other ways, and that I think so many patients can do what I did and go into your local school, go into your local club, your organization, and tell your story. You know, become, you know, the people like myself, yourself, we can help people with PowerPoints and show how to do it. But to get in there and tell your story, and that has two benefits. One, you're promoting donor awareness and showing the reality of living with kidney disease. And secondly, if you could go out and stand up in front of people and help them and show them about adversity and how it can be overcome, you feel great. It's such a great feeling. When I was on dialysis, I felt pretty useless. I wasn't a productive member of society. And then I stood in front of people and I gave my story and gave some lessons and some advice. And they were so grateful. And, you know, the round of applause made me feel $1 million. So there's a lot of people out there, I feel, with kidney disease and other illnesses that can highlight the reality of living with the disease, teach people about resilience, and also promote donor awareness. It's a win-win all over.
Wow. All right. Then let's take one more look at you going into the Atlantic Ocean.
The Atlantic Ocean.
The snow. Today, it's snowing. I'm going to get in, not for long, to do it. And as I said, 10 years transplanted yesterday. The only reason I can do stuff like this is because of the gift of life.
Oh, it's class.
I was cold.
The water's fine. I think that's enough for today, though. Did you turn it, Grace?
Now, Dan, before we leave, do you recommend people who've had transplants or maybe not, you know, on the transplant list, had a transplant, do something such as that as a celebration?
No, I don't. I would not recommend it. You know, now I didn't just jump in. I think you should do something to mark the occasion, to highlight the occasion. It could be a walk, it could be a 5K, it could be, you know, show off something that you can do now, but you couldn't really do. Like, I couldn't do that on dialysis at 60 odd kilos. I would be in hypothermia very quickly. I started with cold showers, slowly turning the water to cold. So I didn't just jump in one day. It was gradually I got into the cold showers, and then when I was prepared and coincidence stepped in, Lady Luck, and says, you know, a friend rang me up the day of my birth, said, we're doing it, come on now. And I was ready. So I wouldn't recommend that particular challenge to everyone, certainly some people, but certainly mark the occasion, highlight it, celebrate when you have a kidney transplant, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, every year. I mark it every year. As I said, I climbed that little mountain
as a kind of thank you to the man above and to my donor family. So certainly mark it, certainly celebrate it, and share what you do, because you're helping the other people who are still on dialysis and still having a tough time.
Absolutely. All right, Darren, man, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's about 1 a.m. there in Ireland. So again, thank you for staying up. I look forward to talking with you soon to get
great.
you back on here. We have some comments in the comment section. So if you get a chance afterwards or tomorrow, encourage you to come back in and look at some of the positive comments for you.
Okay.
Yes.
I will. I look forward to it. I'll read everything. I answer everything myself. My two little boys will be up in about 4 hours time. So yeah, I might be going to bed straight away.
All right, man. So again, thank you, Darren. I appreciate it.
A pleasure.
Talk to you soon. God bless you. And again, stay safe out there.
Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. I love nurses. I always love nurses.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Darren. Talk with you soon, man.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, man. Take care. Guys, this has been an awesome show. I want to thank you for tuning in and watching myself and Darren tonight. Stay tuned in about 10 minutes. Lisa Baxter show is coming up. She's going to have Mike Scott, the dialysis warrior gear entrepreneur and kidney warrior. So that's coming right up in about 5 or 10 minutes right here on the Urban Health Outreach Media Network. Again, thank you guys for watching. God bless you. Stay safe and stay encouraged. Peace.